Imagine walking into a cinema expecting another war movie, and instead feeling as though you had stumbled into a government file full of horrors the world wasn't supposed to see. Imagine images so raw that censors in multiple countries panicked, critics walked out of screenings, and journalists asked if the filmmakers had committed crimes just to get the footage. This wasn't a horror story made up for thrills. This was a dramatization of real events, shot in a way that looked so authentic it blurred the line between history and nightmare. In 1988, a small team of Chinese filmmakers rolled cameras on a project no studio in the West would dare to make. They called it Men Behind the Sun. Audiences called it everything from unwatchable to a necessary evil. Here's how one low-budget film about an obscure World War II atrocity became one of the most banned movies of all time. At the center of Men Behind the Sun was director T.F. Mao, a Hong Kong-born filmmaker who had built a reputation on edgy, politically charged projects. Mu had been fascinated and horrified by the story of Unit 731, the covert Japanese biological warfare unit that operated in occupied Manchuria. He wanted to make a film that forced people to look at this hidden history head-on. No sugarcoating, no heroic subplots, no Western star to guide the audience. Just the machinery of cruelty as it really happened. Instead of big names, he cast mainly unknown actors and non-actors. Shugu Hua played the sadistic Japanese officer. Wang Gong was one of the young trainees. The anonymity helped the movie feel like a documentary. These weren't characters, but stand-ins for thousands of real people. The production took place in northern China with a shoestring budget. Authentic Japanese uniforms were recreated from photos. Actual derelict buildings were used as the Unit 731 compound. Mao's team studied wartime testimonies to choreograph the experiments. His special effects crew used animal parts from slaughterhouses, realistic prosthetics, and clever editing to produce visuals that looked terrifyingly real. The film opens with the passage, "Friendship is friendship, history is history." A group of Japanese boys are conscripted into the youth corps. They are assigned to the Kwantung Army and are brought to one of the facilities serving Unit 731, which is headed by Shiro Ishii. Soon they are introduced to the experiments going on at the facility, for which they feel revulsion. The purpose of the experiments is to find a highly contagious strain of bubonic plague to be used as a last-ditch weapon against the Chinese population. Meanwhile, the young soldiers befriend a local mute Chinese boy with whom they play games of catch. One day, the commanding officers ask the boys to bring the Chinese child to the facility. Naively, they follow orders believing that no real harm will come to the boy. However, the senior medical staff vivisects the boy and keeps his organs for research. When the young soldiers realize what has happened, they stage a minor uprising by ganging up and physically beating their commanding officer. After a revelation, Dr. Ishii develops a prototype ceramic bomb that does not kill the infectious fleas inside upon being launched. To test its efficacy, he orders several Chinese prisoners to be tied to crosses. However, the experiment is botched since the Japanese aerial forces are retreating. Chinese prisoners break free from the crosses and attempt to escape. However, Japanese troops hunt them down, and nearly all of them are run over or shot, including several Japanese. Unit 731 overhears the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Russia's declaration of war. Dr. Ishii initially orders his subordinates and their families to commit suicide, but is persuaded instead to evacuate them and only commit suicide if captured. Afterwards, Unit 731 destroys evidence of their research, including gassing the surviving test subjects to death and blowing up the facilities. That night, the Japanese troops and their families wait at the train station to arrive home to Japan. One lone survivor of Unit 731, having disguised himself as a Japanese soldier, attacks one of them but is impaled by a Japanese flag. The youth corps clutch onto the blood-stained flag in horror as they depart the station. The closing passages reveal that Dr. Ishii cooperates with the Americans, giving them his research and agreeing to work for them. Years later, he is moved to the Korean War, and biological weapons appear on the battlefield shortly thereafter. The youth corps involved with 731 are revealed to have led hard lives after the war, with their educational background being stigmatized. The film traces the arrival of new teenage recruits at Unit 731. Through their eyes, we watch the science of human experimentation unfold. Prisoners forced into freezing temperatures until limbs shatter like glass. Shirihinama, people subjected to plague-infected fleas. Live vivisections of men, women, and even children. Two sequences became legendary for their shock value: the cat and the rats. A black cat is thrown into a pit of hundreds of hungry rats. Even though Mu has said no animal was actually harmed, the cat was rescued and the rats were manipulated with editing, the images convinced viewers it was real. The autopsy: a Chinese prisoner is cut open alive. The prosthetic work and the actor's performance were so convincing that rumors spread that Mu had used actual medical footage. Because of scenes like these, Australian censors refused classification entirely. Norway banned it. In Britain, it went on the video nasty list. In the US, it existed only as underground VHS tapes for years. Even in Hong Kong and parts of Asia, it was severely cut or screened privately. Some critics accuse Mu of exploiting suffering for shock value. Others, including historians of Unit 731, argued that only by showing the full horror could the world understand what happened. Part of what made Men Behind the Sun different from, say, Schindler's List or Come and See was its lack of Hollywood distance. There is no orchestral score to soften the blows, no heroic rescue to reassure audiences. It presents atrocity almost clinically, echoing the way the Japanese doctors saw their victims. This approach sparked an ongoing ethical debate. Does showing such graphic violence educate or traumatize? Is it art or exploitation? The question is still asked in film schools and human rights courses today. Mu has defended his film as an act of remembrance. For decades, Unit 731's crimes were downplayed or denied in Japanese textbooks. Survivors' testimonies were ignored. By making the most shocking version possible, Mu believed he could bypass censorship and force people to confront the evidence. Ironically, every ban helped the movie grow. Word of mouth spread across Asia and the West. Have you seen that film about Unit 731? Bootleg VHS tapes circulated at horror conventions alongside Cannibal Holocaust and Faces of Death. By the late 1990s and 2000s, Men Behind the Sun was a fixture in banned film lists. Scholars began to reevaluate it as more than just shock cinema. It's now screened in some universities as part of war crimes courses. Several sequels followed: Laboratory of the Devil, 1992, Narrow Escape, 1994, Black Sun, The Nanking Massacre, 1995, expanding Mu's mission to dramatize suppressed atrocities. Today, the film sits in a strange place, still reviled by some as tasteless, yet praised by others as one of the few movies to confront a hidden genocide. Even streaming platforms shy away from it, but it's easy to find in academic discussions and underground forums. More than 3 decades later, Men Behind the Sun is still not an easy watch. It's not meant to be. It is a warning about what happens when ideology erases humanity and when nations bury their crimes instead of remembering them. Whether you see it as art, exploitation, or evidence, one thing is certain: it's a film you will never forget. If you're interested in the hidden stories behind other banned or censored movies, films that governments, studios, or censors tried to keep out of sight, follow or subscribe. We're diving into every one of them, exposing the history, the controversy, and the legacy that refuses to die.